Just as a general heads up, this webinar will be recorded, so you can view it at a later time if you miss the webinar. Okay, so here's a quick overview of Tree Plotter. We have a lot of different versions of Tree Plotter, and we do a lot of different things with it. Not only do we inventory trees, but we can inventory other assets like park amenities, benches, trash cans, things like that. We do a work order management module, which allows you to create maintenance requests and email them out to your crews. We can plot parks, we can plot canopy data, and we do a whole host of different custom apps as well. So a lot of different options there for different types of software. As far as tech requirements go for Tree Plotter, it's a web-based application, which means all you need to access it is a password and an internet connection, which we set up for you, the password that is. It's subscription-based, and we're pretty flexible on this, but normally it's either a 1 or 3 year subscription, and the cost tends to vary just by whether how long your subscription is, and then as well as what kind of app you have and what kind of add-ons you've decided to include. It is available on tablets, which is how most people go and inventory data in the field, and it's also available on smartphones in a kind of a limited fashion. To see the new updates that I'm going to talk about, you may need to clear the cache from your browser. Now, normally a refresh will show a lot of the changes, but to make sure that you're not holding on to any of our old code base, you'll have to do something like going to the settings of your browser and looking for an option to clear out cached images and files. So you can see there it says from the beginning of time. I mean, you can do that as long as you're clearing out the time that you've been using Tree Plotter. So, you know, a week, a couple weeks, or whatever it is. After you clear your cache, you should be able to view all of the new updates for Tree Plotter. A couple other basic things about Tree Plotter here. There's several different levels of users for most of our apps. And there may be more than one inventory in your app in the form of an organization. So first, the different user levels are just admin 1 levels can see everything, they can create everything, they can delete users, they can approve requested users. And then it just kind of goes down from there, and we can set up different custom privileges for each of your admin levels. Sometimes we have read-only data. Sometimes we have user levels that can only edit certain fields. Sometimes we have managers for certain organizations. For the statewide level, organizations will show up as a kind of a higher level way to break up your data. A lot of the times in our statewide apps, this is in the form of a city. So the whole app will be for the whole state, and each organization will have its own separate inventory of trees accessible through the organization. Now I'm going to run through just a quick overview of Tree Plotter for some of the people who may not be familiar with Tree Plotter at all. We'll try to keep this pretty brief here so we have some time to answer questions at the end, but I'm going to talk about most of what the core functionality of Tree Plotter is. There's a lot of different information on this page here. A couple of the things to notice are at the right, there's the interactive legend. The interactive legend is where you can either display by different fields. The popular ones include DBH or condition or species, and then you can also toggle between different layers in your app. So if you have work orders, they'll show up here. If you have an organizations layer, you'll be able to toggle between them from this point, and the map will update accordingly. Across the top, we have 6 different buttons. At the top right, there's the login and out shortcut, the add tree and move tree buttons. Across the top left, we have the tools button, we have plot and stats. We'll talk about each of those a little bit later in the presentation here. Other stuff to notice on this page include the full tree details form, the species lookup table, and then the initial pop-up that comes up when you click on a tree point. We'll kind of go into a lot more detail with this in just a second. And as a general heads up, we do have a user guide now too that goes through all of this in detail. So moving right along here. Under tools, you have a lot of different tools at your disposal. They're broken up into 5 different groups: the basics, in the map, measure and graphics, print and map labels, and my data. The basics will have a lot of your basic account administration type things, logging in and out, managing your account, like changing your password or changing your username or email. Settings will have things like being able to toggle on and off different features. And then we include a take a tour PowerPoint slideshow with all of our apps to just kind of get you started in the right direction. Under in the map, there are 3 different tabs. It's through this location that you'll be able to choose your different base maps. So we have several different base maps loaded into the app automatically from third-party sources, and we can display different imagery based on what you prefer, really. Sometimes it helps because the imagery is taken at different times of the year. Some of the imagery may be leaf off or leaf on, and it's good to go ahead and just toggle through those and see which one you like the best. There's also options to change the appearance of a layer, and you can also search by an address, and it will drop a point on the map based on the address. Under measure and graphics, we have 2 tools. There's the draw button and the measure button. These 2 tools function essentially in the same fashion, other than with measurements, you get the added benefit of having either a length or an area or a spatial location measured. So the tool works by first choosing whether you want to measure a length or an area or a location. You can choose English or metric units, and then you can kind of draw on the map, measuring either an area as a polygon or a length as a bunch of line segments or a spatial location as a point. And you have some options as far as changing the appearance of these tools as well. Draw and graphics works the same way, except you're not getting those measurements. It's just a temporary drawing on the map. Like if you wanted to single out a certain area of the city and kind of draw a temporary box around it to show where you may want to be inventorying that day or something like that. We'll skip over some of the other tools in the interest of time and jump right into data collection here. If you have any questions on the other tools, feel free to email me at any time. I can point you towards our user guide or other things, and it really goes into a lot of detail there. So, with data collection, you'll hit either the add button at the top right of the map, or you'll go to the plot button, which is that middle button at the top left, and there's an additional add and move button located under there. After you click this button, most likely a list of templates will show up for things like trees or stumps planting sites. And just know that the data entry form is exactly the same regardless of what template you choose. It just auto-populates certain fields. For example, planting site normally auto-populates your species to not applicable since there's not actually a tree there. Here's an example of what the tree details form might look like. Now this shows up after you pick a template and click on the map to add your point. You can see that there's multiple different tabs along the top here in this darker green color. It's just to help break up the fields into a less busy list. Depending on what product you order, some of these might be visible and some of them might not be. You have full control over what fields you add into TreePlotter, and we can either offer an out-of-the-box kind of default list of fields, or we're happy to customize your list for you. So in this example, there are 5 different tabs, and you can just kind of go through the list here and fill out all of the information. One that's pretty noteworthy to talk about is the species. When you click to add a species, this pop-up shows up here, and you're able to search through the list and find a species that you're looking for. You're able to add a species to this list, and the most common gets saved here up at the top for easier access. So pretty handy there. As far as data management goes, if you're looking to view all of your data in one location, you can click on the plot button and then trees, and where it says table here, this will open up a data table, and this shows all of the data in your app in one central location. You can edit from in here, you can filter, you can sort, you can do all sorts of cool things, and you can even export either all of your data or a subset of your data. Speaking of exporting, there's a couple different ways that you can export your data, either through the data table that we were just looking at under plot, or under tools, there's also an exporter button under my data. You can either export as a shapefile to open it up in ArcGIS or another geospatial program, or you can export as a CSV file and open it up in something like Excel. The lookup table editor is worth mentioning as well. This is under My Data also. It should be right under the exporter tool when you're logged in. With Tree Plotter, you have full control over what species are in your list and how many species you have. Normally, there's a species table in your app. There may also be additional tables like park name under here. And this is just a really easy way to see all of your species or all of a different field in one location, be able to edit it, take entries out, add new entries, things like that. It's really, really important to keep a good, complete species list and try to fill out as many of these fields as you can. And it's pretty easy to do it from this location. The Mass Updater is another tool that I'll talk about really quickly. It's mostly for work order management clients. But the idea is you can draw a polygon around a bunch of points and then update a single field to a single new entry. So once you select all your points via drawing a polygon or entering their ID numbers, this pop-up will show up and you can update one field to a single new entry. Say you have 10 trees that all needed to be pruned at one time, and you went out and did all that work. Rather than going to click on all the points individually and change prune to none needed, you could select all the points at one time and update them. Saves you a lot of time. Another really handy tool is the advanced filter. Now the advanced filter shows up in this small little selection of tools here that shows at the, I'll show you really quick here. It shows at the top left of the page. We take a look here at the app. You can see the advanced filter right in here. It shows up at this little collection of tools here. We're going back to the beginning. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, advanced filter. With the advanced filter, you can either filter by a field attribute, like a condition or a species or a DBH, or you can filter by map by drawing a polygon around them. Once you filter by a certain field or by the map, every chart and stats is updated, the legend is updated, and you can even export the subset of data for analysis in different programs. Under stats, which is that third button there at the top left of the screen, are various different summaries. You can immediately kind of call out and just get a good feel for what your data looks like. You can see different percentages for different species or primary maintenance, condition, things like that. It gives you a quick count of the number of trees in your app, the number of stumps, planting spaces, things like that. Another tool under stats is charting. So we have a lot of pre-built charts in the app. As long as you go with one of our default species lists, we have a lot of default charts. Things like the most common species by the DBH range, or just trees broken up by their different DBH ranges. These charts are really handy because not only can you get a good feel of what your data looks like, but you can export or print them right from in the app and include them in other reports. For some apps, we have a tool called Create Custom Chart. This is in beta testing right now, but I thought I would mention it anyways. It's available on request, and you can actually go in and create your own charts from the front end of the app. So if you don't see a chart there that you think would be useful, you can go in and kind of play around with the data and see if you can't make a couple charts that'll help represent your data better. We also offer ecosystem benefit services. Now, these take localized values from an iTree service and estimate things like energy conservation, stormwater management, property values, anything that would any monetary benefit that trees have on society, essentially. You can either aggregate them as through the whole app. You can click on a single point and see what a single tree is adding as far as benefits go, or you can filter using the advanced filter and get a certain area's benefits. You can also print reports under stats. These are nice for just kind of pre-built reports. You can check different sections of charts, things that you want to include. You can add text to them, add a title page, things like that. And the end result is a really nice looking, albeit basic report that you don't have to actually type up yourself. You know, it's pretty handy for creating quick reports. I'll talk briefly about work order management just because it applies to some of the new updates that we have for TreePlotter. Work order management is great for tree maintenance firms or people that are interested in doing a lot of maintenance on a lot of trees at one time and keeping organized while doing it. A work order is created by an admin and emailed or sent out to their crews. A service request can be requested by the public. So if somebody in your community, if you're interested in having a lot of community engagement with the app and you want to have it in front of a lot of different eyes and people using it, the public could go out into their community and see a couple trees that really need a lot of work, and they could submit their own service request and send it to you. We're going to talk mostly about work orders today. But you see here, there's the service request form. You can submit it, and the admin will get it in their email. Adding work orders or service requests is done similarly to adding tree points. They have a spatial location on the map, so you can just drop a work order point near the trees that are going to be in the work order. You can fill out a lot of different information for the work order, things like the maintenance needs or the address or when it needs to be done by, the priority, things like that. And then you can link trees to each work order. Now this is done by either clicking on individual points, adding from their ID number, or in a similar fashion to the mass updater that we talked about a little bit earlier, you can just draw a box around a big section of trees. Once you do that, you can add recommendations for maintenance needs or things like that, and save it as a PDF and send it right off to whoever needs it. You can also manage your work progress as you're going. If you have a work order management app, there are also a lot of work order management charts that show up as the default. And you can also either PDF or print the work orders. And this is an example of what a work order could look like. So you have a bunch of information on the work order up here at the top. And then you have specific needs for each tree down below. So you can see here, there's two different trees in here, and one of them needs to be pruned, one of them needs to be removed. There's specific comments for each one. There's specific maintenance needs for each one. It's just real concise and easy way to keep track of tree maintenance. So now we'll talk a little bit about new developments for TreePlotter. Looks like we're doing pretty good on time here. I got through that pretty quickly. One of the new developments that we have in TreePlotter is a really easy way to get a hold of us in the event that you need support or you just want to give us suggestions for the app. The support button is located under Tools and the Basics. You click on the support, there's just a small form you have to fill out. You can either email us or you can give us a phone call. And it goes to a couple of us right into our emails. So in this way, we hope to get to any support or service requests a lot quicker, and just really be as available and as helpful as we can be. Another new development is archiving work orders. Archiving work orders is a really handy way to keep track of historical work on groups of trees. You can archive a work order when it's completed, but you can also archive a work order when it's in progress. If you need to postpone the work and you just don't want the points to show up on the map and kind of clutter the map up, you see these points in red down here are archived ones. Right now, I have, if you have under settings, if you have it set up to show the archived points will show up on the map. But if you're just interested in work that's in progress currently and is not archived, you can toggle them off and not have to see them at all. And it helps keep the app a little bit cleaner there. That's available to all of our work order management clients. Another cool new development that we have is tree points relative to the DBH of trees. Now this one's pretty cool for me. You can you go into the layers under tools and you can specify a field. Right now all we have is DBH, but I could very easily see this working for a lot of different number fields. A couple different interesting applications for this. Tree height would be another good one to display by this. But the idea is if you toggle this on, the tree points with larger DBH values will show up as larger points. So it just makes for more interesting maps and more descriptive maps without having to include a lot of legend or other information. One thing that we're really excited about, and it's in early testing, is an offline collector. Now, one of the cool things about Tree Plotter is that it is available for anybody with an internet connection. A drawback to that is if you're in the field, you have to have a data plan or Wi-Fi connection to be able to do a large amount of tree inventory. And we've gotten around this in the past with a lot of different workarounds, things like just having a decent data plan or carrying a mobile hotspot with you. With the offline collector, it would be possible to specify an area for offline collection prior to going into the field, collecting all of the data, and then resyncing back with Tree Plotter when you have an internet connection again. And this way, you could go out and collect trees in areas that may or may not have a good internet connection at all. Middle of downtown areas sometimes don't have good internet connections because of all the big buildings. Another great thing is you could do collections way out in the woods somewhere, or somewhere that doesn't have a good internet connection at all. We have some clients in the Pacific Islands that some of their internet connections are a little spotty sometimes, and we're really looking forward to getting this tested out in the field. It's currently in alpha testing, but we're slating it for either a Q4 release of this year or maybe early next year. And finally, we have a new website just for Tree Plotter. This will be devoted entirely to Tree Plotter and contains things like frequently asked questions, a comprehensive user guide, a map of clients, a blog, just all sorts of information on Tree Plotter. And I'll show you a little bit of the website now. But rather than going to planetgeo.com, now you'll be navigating to treeplotter.com for all of your software-related needs. We have things like a blog, we have a project map, which is pretty cool. You can come in here and see just kind of an interactive map of all the projects that we have. Not only Tree Plotter software clients, but custom apps, urban tree canopy assessments. Most of the projects that we've done as a company show up on this map. We have a lot of information on product pricing and add-ons, core functionality. These pages will likely be updated over time, but the idea is just to come in and get a decent price, decent idea of what different price levels are, and then also just what each product offers you and what's right for you. We have a lot of different options here. Probably the most helpful for you guys are going to be user guides and frequently asked questions. We have a full user guide and a lot of the tools that I skipped over in the interest of time All of that information is in here, and you can learn a whole lot about how to use TreePlotter just by kind of skimming through and reading about specific tools. I will likely be adding more and more content to this as we go and as TreePlotter gets better and better. Frequently asked questions. We have a technology page as well. For a couple of our more tech-savvy folks, if they want to know a little bit more about just kind of what goes on under the hoods, maybe our technology stack or how we're using open source technology, things like that. A lot of good information there. And we also have TreePlotter University, which is a new endeavor on our part, where colleges and universities across the country can apply for free and have TreePlotter as a resource to use in their classes for students. So just to recap a little bit here, we talked about just kind of a general overview of TreePlotter and PlanetGeo. We talked about some new updates. As a reminder, you have a lot of different resources. PlanetGeo.com for all of your geospatial needs. TreePlotter.com for all of your software needs. We have a user guide. We have frequently asked questions. We have a YouTube tutorial channel with a lot of good TreePlotter videos, and I'll get a link to that in an email after the webinar is over. We have the support form, and we have an info email that you can email at any time, and somebody will see it. We do quarterly training updates, as well as these software updates, and we have a list of all of our old recorded webinars as well on planetgeo.com if you follow that link there. So if you're interested in watching some more webinars, that's where you would go. Thought I'd try to keep this one short and sweet in case anybody had questions. But I'd go ahead and take questions now. I do have the app open, so if you want to see something in particular as far as a demo goes, I'd be happy to show that to you. I can also just answer various questions that you might have. But thanks for listening and attending. If you do have any questions or suggestions, things like that, you can go ahead and drop them in the comment section, the chat box. From Damon here, we have, for in the map section, could you use other maps than what are in the drop-down list? We do have the ability to support custom imagery. Normally it's through, we don't actually host it ourselves on our servers, but we can do like endpoints or REST endpoints if it's supported on a service somewhere. A couple of our apps do have custom imagery in them, so we can do that. Ooh, that's a good question. Can custom imagery be set to default? I don't believe that you can set it to be the default currently, but it may be something that we could implement in the future. Carrie from Lakeway is asking, when exporting data, are all fields exported? The short answer is yes. If you go into the filter and you select a subset of data, or if you're just exporting your entire inventory, all of the fields will be exported. However, if you go into plot under the data table and you go to, here, I can show you right now. If you go under plot and the data table and you go to fields here, you can actually toggle on and off different fields. So if you just want to export a data set with a couple of different fields, you could click on this toggle all button and just say, just give me all of the trees with DBH and common name and export it. And that should create either a shapefile or a CSV with just those fields. Well, okay. I think we have until the end of the hour here, but maybe I'll just take a couple minutes here and show some of the new updates actually in the app as a live demo, and we'll see if any other questions trickle in as we go here. Uh, we'll show you where the support form lives under the basics here in tools. Here's where your support form will be. You can enter your email and enter a question, and when you hit submit, it goes right to our email. Archiving work orders is under settings. Under here, you have this show archived button. So if we were to go to our work orders inventory, which remember we can toggle different inventories under the interactive legend. If we go to work orders and we click show archived work orders, we have a lot more that appear here. Now, one thing to notice is that the status of these isn't only completed work orders. Some of them that were archived are scheduled work or work that's in progress, and that's okay. We wanted to include this functionality because it might be helpful if you have a bunch of work orders, scheduled, and they get postponed for a long time. Maybe you don't want to have to be able to see them on the app, on the map. So what you could do is you just go into the tree details here. You click on this archived checkbox. I'll show you the one more thing here, and then we'll probably call it, unless anybody else has some questions for us here. We'll show the DBH point thing because I really like that. So with this feature, if it's toggled on for your app, which is something that you'll have to contact us about, if you go in the map under the layers, you'll see down here there's a symbology section. Now first you have to select your layer as trees, and then select DBH as the field. You can set a max and minimum radius for your points, and then click update. Now every tree point on the map is displayed as a different size based on their DBH. Got another question down here. It says, will archive data be included in exports and reports? Definitely in the reports. So the archived, there should be a status is archived for the reports. And for exports, I do believe that all of the records are included. And there may just be another field that says export or that says archived true or false, and it'll say whether or not it's an archived work order. Well, okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending and listening. Hopefully you found it somewhat informative. I'm always available by email or by my phone. You can find both of those in my email signature. You can email us at info@planetgeo.com. You can go to our website at planetgeo.com or treeplotter.com. And we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks for attending. Have a good rest of your day.